What's going on? Welcome back to your weekly Roto Heat redraft live stream. We got the Fantasy Inferno. We got Cody Woodman. We got Shane Barrett. Fantasy finals are upon us. Shane, how you doing, man?
Great, man. I have the whole week off, which is super nice. So just been
Nice.
hanging with the fam and trying to get a baby to come.
Nice. I am your own.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Jeez. It's crunch time, I guess, eh?
Yeah. She's doing about 2 weeks.
Oh, wow. So any day now.
Yep.
We'll see. Well, hopefully it doesn't happen while we're streaming here. So,
If
but
I leave suddenly, people, that is why.
Yep, fair enough, fair enough. But yeah, it's the finals. This is the last week of the season. Best ball finals, every fantasy leagues finals, unless you're in some wonky, weird league that you have week 18 finals. That would be insane. If you have any comments, fire them into the chat. We'll get to them as quickly as we can. We're going to go through some fantasy football awards for the season. These were voted on by our community. They were, in a poll on the YouTube channel, so voted on by everybody. I have some names written down for some guys that are kind of honorable mentions. But Shane, how you looking for your fantasy season? You got any teams in the finals, or what's going on?
Yeah, I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 teams in the final.
Nice. And how
One of
many leagues?
out of 30.
So yeah, the what sucks about not playing in volume leagues is I have 0 in
Hmm.
finals, so that kind of sucks. And there was 2 that I was very very hopeful for. Got hit with the injury bug pretty badly on both of those. Actually, it was the same player, Lamar Jackson,
Oh,
basically just killed me. So it is what it is. And then my best ball didn't go as well as I wanted. Still looking all right. And I got one team in the finals in the Puppy 3. Hoping I
nice.
can be unique. Hopefully I can get, that's the one with the biggest payout, 200K up top. Not expecting to win 200K, but that would be amazing. I have a 1 in 230 opportunity to get
That's
that.
not
I'll take,
horrible.
yeah, I'll take top 10. I'll top 10. I'm more than happy with. More than happy with. But if I'm first or runner up, then that would be even better. Let's start off with a question. Actually, we got this question in the chat. Anthony's in there. We might as well start off with that first before we get to the awards. So Anthony asks, Heat Seekers, how will Waddle and Hill be impacted by Teddy Bridgewater starting versus the
That's
Patriots?
so funny, Anthony, because we were talking about this pre-show,
A little
sort of.
bit, yeah. A little bit.
Um, I'll take the lead on this one. I've got
Yeah.
Tua in my home league, keeper league, and also got Tyreek Hill. I think Tyreek will be fine. We've seen. I went back and looked to check like what's Tyreek's production going to be like this week for the finals without Tua, and he was fine with whoever the quarterback was. Not as high in every game, but still producing at a level that you'll be fine with. Waddle, if I remember correctly, however, did not produce as well in the games that Tua was out of. So if you've got Waddle, I'd be a little more tentative with him.
Yeah, I 100% agree. I went back and looked as well. And the one kind of, and it's surprising that Teddy actually only played one full game. And
Yeah.
actually, he didn't even play that entire game either. Skylar Thompson got into that one as well. But that in that game, Tyreek Hill went off for like 177 and 12 catches or something like that.
Yeah.
And Waddle had, like 3 for 29, something like that. So, yeah, it's clear that, the Alabama connection between Tua and Waddle absolutely exists. That sucks for me. My best ball team I just mentioned has Waddle. So I'm hoping for Waddle to absolutely go off. But at the same time, I would not be unique because a lot of guys had Waddle last week and then they're now in the finals. So it's one of those things, either he goes off and he's the guy you have to have, or I don't know. We'll see. But I agree 100%. I think Tyreek will be fine and Waddle might take a hit. I'm a little less likely, but at the same time, in the finals, you really have the stones to sit Jalen Waddle.
Yeah.
Yes or no?
Sorry, I was agreeing that was a good question.
It is a good question, but like I'm proposing that to you. Would you sit him if you had the choice? Obviously, in basketball, I don't have a choice, and I hope he goes off. But
We'll throw up Leone's next question.
so Anthony Leone, Roto Heat team member, Waddle or Garrett Wilson this week?
I would go Garrett Wilson.
I probably would too with Mike White back
Mike White is
against
starting
Seattle. Nothing
against
super scary with
Seattle,
Seattle.
except Tariq Woolen.
Tariq Woolen, yeah, he's very, very good, but I think Garrett Wilson's better,
Yeah,
if I'm being honest. And yeah, with Mike White back, and it's a must-win game. But actually, it's a must-win game for both of those teams in that game.
yeah.
But I think I'd go Garrett Wilson over Waddle as well. It's kind of call me
Well,
crazy,
because
but
no,
yeah.
I mean, I really don't think you're that crazy because Miami's matchup when it comes to wide receivers is not a good one.
Mm-hmm.
And so I and like we mentioned with the quarterback switch due to the concussion, like you can't be super comfortable starting him. And if you've got the option of someone like Garrett Wilson or someone with a better matchup that we've seen produce to the level that Waddle has, then I think I'd be comfortable doing it.
I'm with you. I'm with you. I hear you. I agree. Let's move into some awards. Let's get to some fantasy football awards. That's what we're here for. That's what the show's all about. Let's open it up. We got the draft steal of 2022. So this is one we're talking about a little bit pre-show. There's another guy in here, or Shane brought up a guy that I was pretty big on preseason. Looks like I might get him at that top 15 wide receiver that I made a bold prediction with in the preseason. There, I think he's 14 right now. At least he was in one of my leagues, wide receiver 14. So as long as he has a good couple weeks to end the year, he'll be wide receiver 15. Bold take, pat on the shoulder for me. We'll see what happens though. Did you have any guys that you could think of besides him? I mean, that was your guy as well, but who else did you have in mind? Maybe if you drafted Justin Fields late, he carried
Yeah,
one of my teams.
I'm looking at different teams. I mean, the two that we've kind of like the one that we've got winning it, and then the one that you and I've kind of talked about. We haven't named him yet, but those two would probably be the ones that I think would be the biggest. Oh, that's a really good one. Jamal Williams.
Jamal Williams is very good. Yes, yes. No one predicted him to lead the at least running backs. I don't know if he leads the NFL, but definitely at least running backs and touchdowns.
Yeah.
So that's definitely one. If you got him late or handcuffed him with Swift, I know if I knew what I know now about Jamal Williams in best ball, I would have drafted him on every single team. I'd have 100% exposure on Jamal Williams. I'll tell you that much. So he's definitely up there. But I think let's reveal the guy that we have. I don't think it's any secret. I think everyone would agree. Josh Jacobs. You know, he was running back 2, maybe 3.
Yeah, I
So
think he's
far?
fallen to RB3 so far, but could easily finish 1 or 2, I think,
Yeah.
because he's close enough.
Mm-hmm. And his draft is,
He was like
his
around 6
ADP was like, yeah,
ADP, I
6 or
think.
7, I think.
And I I'm ashamed at myself for not having more exposure to Josh Jacobs, just because the value was there.
Yeah.
Even like not knowing what we know now, I think the value was still there with Jacobs. People were writing him off because of the contract and I guess Devontae coming in. But the value was there for me, I think.
Well, let's talk about the red flags that were there because yeah, they didn't pick up his 5th-year option. Pretty big concern. The offensive line is a pile of hot garbage.
Yeah, I
New
think that was
coach,
the one that kind of
yeah, new
steered me away the most was
new
the line.
coach, new coaching staff, right? Then the preseason, then they're giving him all the work in preseason game 2 or whatever it was. There was
Yeah.
just red flag after red flag after red flag after red flag. Meanwhile, we all know, and I think you're kind of alluding to it there, like we all know the talent that Josh Jacobs has and the ability that he has, and he's shown that he can be an NFL running back and all these things, but we still, we're obviously leery collectively about his his potential production. Zamir White gets drafted. Brandon Bolden comes over from the Patriots with Josh McDaniels. Devontae Adams comes in. All these red flags, right? So, again, if you stick to your guns, you're pretty happy with Josh Jacobs on your roster.
Yeah. Highest career total in yardage for rushing and receiving. Second highest for targets and receptions. Second highest for touchdowns. Highest for yards per carry. Also highest for just carries and period. So,
So a quick question for you: does Josh Jacobs play for the Las Vegas Raiders next year?
I don't think so.
Where does he go?
No idea.
So I mean, the running back, the free agents, the free agent running backs this offseason is absurd.
Yeah.
It's insane the amount of depth and talent that is in the free agent pool this year. And Josh Jacobs is obviously right at the top of the list, probably. You know, David Montgomery's up there. There's a few other guys I can't recall off the top of my
You
head.
know where I'd like to see him go, actually, and this came to me like when you asked it? Tampa Bay.
Great landing spot. Yep. Kansas City, Philly,
Kansas City would be another good one.
Philadelphia Eagles could be a running back
Yeah.
away. You know,
I don't know, man. I think Philly's winning it this year.
well, yeah, I mean, regardless, but I mean, they could go and add a running back. A lot of people
Yeah.
are saying they're going to draft a running back, Philly. Team like Carolina, potentially, if they get a lot better quickly, which is not that crazy. They could be a playoff team this year, the Panthers. So, you know, Josh Jacobs could go somewhere like that. There's lots of landing spots out there. So we'll see. We'll see. But yeah, Josh Jacobs, he's our draft steal of 2022. Let's move on to the best waiver pickup of 2022. So this is a guy that wasn't drafted in majority of leagues. Or these were guys, not just him. And we're going to talk about a couple guys here. So couple other players that were mentioned in the poll, you know, in the comments that people wanted to vote for. Kenny Walker.
Yep.
Kenneth Walker the third, KW3, whatever you want to call him, my first number one running back in this rookie draft year, all these kinds of things. So he was on the list. You know, he definitely could earn some consideration there. But were you drafting Kenny Walker? I guess it depends on the league size, right?
I was drafting Kenny Walker because I liked the landing. Like, I feel like I was one of the few people that liked the landing spot more than Breece Hall to the Jets. So I was drafting Kenny Walker in even in redraft. So yeah, I had Kenny Walker in a couple spots and loved that.
Yeah, me too. I was willing to wait. He was my number one running back for a reason. I liked the landing spots just as much, realistically. Like with the Jet, I thought the number one was in Houston, and we saw that with Dameon Pierce, who just had the opportunity, right? But I think Seattle and New York with Jets were probably like the 2A, 2B type of landing spots for running backs in the draft. So I was fine with the landing spot as well, especially with Rashad Penny, who you know had a pretty good feeling he'd get
I
dinged
had a
up.
hunch he was going to get hurt.
Yeah, I think everybody, right?
Yeah.
So I was willing to wait it out for Kenny Walker. We said throughout the year, you know, that I think he's a league winner, and you obviously agreed, and here we are. A lot of people think he's a league winner, but so that's another guy that people had on their mind for best waiver pickup of 2022. Another quarterback for waiver pickup that people had on their mind was Justin Fields.
Yeah, that's a good one.
What did you think about him? Were you drafting him, or were you avoiding? Were you worried about, you know, the team in general, him as a player? What's going on with Justin Fields?
In one QB redraft, I was not drafting him. I've never really been a fan of him coming out, and they had two main opportunities for targets in Darnell Mooney and Cole Kmet this year, I thought. And so I just thought the whole team was going to be bad, and their ceiling was really, really limited from an offensive standpoint with that. So yeah, I was not drafting him anywhere really. I think I did end up picking him up in one league. But yeah.
I mean, he could have been up there for a draft steal as well. I was drafting him, but I'm in very deep leagues. So, you know, I drafted him in a league where I had Lamar Jackson, and he carried me. Justin Fields, that is, carried me through the, the end of the season and into the start of the fantasy playoffs. I still didn't make it to the finals, but, because I had Lamar Jackson as a relatively early pick, that's how late I was able to get Justin Fields. He was just, a backup for me. I wasn't really, thinking about having him play any games or anything. And realistically, I'm starting Lamar over him all the time anyways, but it was, he was super, super late. So I guess in smaller leagues, you definitely wouldn't be drafting him. So he could certainly be up there. But the winner that we have, best waiver pickup of 2022, comeback player of the year, maybe people could say, Mr. I think he will win comeback player of the year in the NFL. What do you think?
If it's not him, I think it'll be CMC, but we'll see.
I think it's got to be Geno for what he's just been through, in his career and the ups and downs and getting picked, being supposed to be a first round quarterback, falls to the second round, has to play right away, gets his jaw broken by a teammate,
I forgot about that.
All kinds of problems, right? And then lands in Seattle and gets an opportunity, and they're pushing for the playoffs potentially. I mean, they got to win out and probably get some help, but they're making a push, and they're much better than anyone thought they were going to be this year. That's for sure. So I thought they'd be one of the worst teams in the league, and that was a huge tank and everything like that. So best waiver pickup. I think everybody agrees. It's Geno Smith. He's I think he's a top 10 quarterback option this year, isn't he?
I don't know off the top of my head. I'll ramble for a minute. The other player that I would have considered for this personally was Deontay Foreman. Just because once CMC left, he's currently sitting at QB7. So, but to finish my thought on Foreman, once CMC left, there was a void to be filled. And it was like they filled that void with Foreman, found an identity, and stuck to it, and Foreman became an instant value.
Yeah.
But Geno Smith as a waiver wire pickup being QB7 absolutely deserves this reward. Especially with like kind of what you said, like his journey throughout the NFL and then seeing him do this and be a weekly starter for you in fantasy when he was cut off of so many dynasty rosters and probably redraft rosters throughout the years. Like, this is awesome. So,
I actually voted for Deontay Foreman on this one as well, to be honest. So I just think that, the running back position is always going to be more valuable. So I drafted for Deontay Foreman, but the people spoke, and Geno Smith gets the award. So
Geno only has one single digit game.
There you go. He's certainly a streaming option at the very, very least, right? Whereas even in deep, 1 QB, 16 team potentially leagues, he wasn't getting drafted.
No.
So good.
There was also the conversation of is it going to be Geno? Is it going to be Drew Lock in the offseason?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like up until at least like probably week 3 of the preseason, it was pretty late when they finally. Well, maybe it's week 2 of the week of the preseason. I mean, it always seemed like that Geno is going to be the guy. But even into the season, there was one point, I think it was like week 3, 4, 5, something like that, where Pete Carroll was like, what do you say, that Drew Lock was kind of nipping on his heels or something like that? You remember?
I remember that. Yep.
Yeah. So it's like even then he was still kind of hedging his own bet, and maybe that's a way to motivate Geno, which is fair. Maybe Pete knows how to motivate him. Okay, sure, I'm willing to believe that, but it was still just it was interesting that he was still not, at least on the surface from an outside perspective. Maybe it looks like they're not completely bought into Geno, but I don't know. We'll see what happens with his contract in this offseason.
Yeah, for sure.
So is he going to be the guy, sort of thing? Is he going to be starting for the Seattle Seahawks in 2023?
Or will it be Derek Carr?
Or Derek Carr, yeah. Honestly, that's a whole nother bag. We'll talk about that maybe at the end of the awards. Well, let's move on. We're going to move on to the offensive rookie of the year in 2022. And this is a guy we already talked about. This is my guy. Very happy that he got this award. Very happy with his production. Another Seattle Seahawk running back, Kenneth Walker. What are your thoughts, Shane, about Kenny Walker?
I love him. Like I said, I liked his landing spot more than Breece Hall. I think I don't know. This is getting too theoretical. I think Kenneth Walker is definitely deserving of this, especially because once Penny went down and he was this, we knew he was the bona fide starter. He did pretty much nothing but produce. He had maybe a couple of clunker weeks, but that's to be expected. It's fantasy football. It happens. But Kenny Walker to me almost became kind of a set it and forget it kind of player. And you weren't, I don't know if people were expecting that at the beginning of the year. And like we talked about, you and I were both willing to wait on him. And it paid off waiting for him and giving.
Yeah. I drafted him. I drafted him relatively late, thinking he's going to be a league winner for me, thinking he was going to be, an eventual flex RB2 type of a play for me at some point down the road in the season. And I was going to hang on to that roster spot as long as it took to see it into fruition. And it did. So, I believe in the talent. An extreme amount. Again, he was my running back one over Brees Hall. I like to mention that every second I get, every chance I get, because there was a lot of people that were calling me crazy. And Brees Hall is the number one running back in Dynasty over JT, over Christian McCaffrey, over all these guys. It's like, come on, let's pump the brakes a little bit here, guys. But so Kenny Walker is he was my favorite running back, and he might be a guy for me. And I think he clocked in as the fastest player in the NFL so far this year. In a touchdown run a couple weeks ago. As far as I saw, 22 point something miles per hour. So he's a 4.3 guy. He's a 4.3 guy at the combine.
That is booking it.
Yeah.
I would like to mention that I did not vote for Kenneth Walker in this poll, even though he won. I bet you can guess who I voted for.
Garrett Wilson?
Yep. Yeah. It was Garrett Wilson. I just love Garrett Wilson. He was my wide receiver one coming in. And with the production that you got out of him, even with the quarterback roller coaster that he's been through, he ended up being worth it. So Wilson was my vote.
Yeah, if they had more stability there, I think that could have been a pretty easy unanimous decision on that one. It's the thing is, like with rookies, it's I'll talk about it a lot once we get into best ball season. Rookies are guys that I target a lot because we're seeing them come in and we're seeing them produce right away from day one or at some point throughout the season. So rookies are phenomenal for best ball because you're not relying on them, week in, week out, but they're going to have those pop off weeks and they're going to get into the lineup. It's not like you're going to cut even a 5th round rookie. It's pretty unlikely that a 5th round or under, 4th, 3rd, 2nd, it's extremely unlikely that they're not making the team, right? So they're going to be playing, they're going to get a shot, they're going to get in there. And definitely Garrett Wilson's another one of those guys. The interesting thing would be go ahead, Shane, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, I don't know if you were going towards Olave with your question, but like Olave, like the reason all three of these guys were deserving. Like Olave, I think, surpassed any expectations. Like he had Andy Dalton as his quarterback for most of the year.
Yeah, he'll finish with 1,000 yards, I think, right?
Yeah, and I'll double check real quick. If he is not already there, he's got to be close.
Yeah,
but you don't. I lost my train of thought. I'm sorry. I'm tired.
I was going to talk about Brees Hall, though, is where I was going with this. Like, it would have been interesting to see, if he finished out the season where he would be. I think you could certainly make a case that Brees Hall is the direct reason why the Jets were so successful early in the season. They were able to really lean on that running game. There's a reason that Zach Wilson was 5-1 or whatever it was as a starter. Yeah. And it certainly wasn't because he's a good quarterback and his skill level. That was certainly not the reason, and Brees Hall goes down, they start losing games. It is worth certainly mentioning that Brees Hall could have certainly been in there if he didn't tear his ACL, and he'll be back next year. I'll probably be, avoiding him a little bit, especially in season long, maybe in best ball. I'll take a look at him.
That strategy next year, by the way.
Yeah. Feel free to steal that one. But another guy that was talked about and mentioned in the comments here, and he was talked about in the comments in the poll, Christian Watson. There's still 2 more games. If he gets, 3 more touchdowns or something, 100 and 200 yards total, 2 more games, 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. That might be
It's
he might be the
possible with
guy
him. We've seen it.
against Minnesota as well at home.
Yeah.
And then the final week, I think the final week is
Wait, he
against
didn't
Detroit,
play.
isn't it?
Don't
For the
remember.
Packers.
Give me a hot second. But he didn't play week 1 against Minnesota. He was
No,
hurt, right?
he played. He played. He almost
Did
caught
he?
an 80-yard touchdown. Remember?
No, I don't
He should have
remember.
caught an 80-yard touchdown. um, it was in his hands. He dropped it in the end zone, type of thing. It is Detroit, yeah. In Week 18, they play Detroit. So Minnesota, then Detroit. Christian Watson could have, I don't know, he could really finish out the season hot and
Yeah.
heavy, and then he could have been the guy if we had
Yeah.
this poll a couple weeks later, right?
Yep. Olave is 60 yards short of 1,000.
So she'll get there. He'll get there in 2 games.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's our offensive rookie of the year, Kenny Walker. Moving on, we got the comeback player of 2022.
The Kim Kardashian.
Yeah, this one was a little bit of like contention, not contention, but I thought it should have been Gino. I had Gino in there as my guy. I think that's who I voted for. Again, because of the things that we mentioned earlier for biggest waiver pickup, I get it. And then we had, who was the other guy to vote for? Christian McCaffrey.
CMC. That's
Christian
actually
McCaffrey.
who I voted for.
Yeah, who finished running back 1 as of right now. Obviously, that could change a little bit. But the people spoke. Neither of our votes counted. And Saquon Barkley wins the 2022 Comeback Player of the Year. So what are your thoughts here? I mean, coming back from injury, he was a Pro Bowl, one of the best running backs in the game. Got hurt. Now he's back doing what he's doing and carrying this team into the playoffs most likely. So what are your thoughts on Saquon?
I mean, all 3 of these guys were very deserving, in my opinion. But with Saquon, I think the cool thing is we got to see Saquon return. I don't know about statistically, but at least from like a narrative standpoint, close to what and value wise what he was as a rookie and early on in his career pre-injury. And so I think that kind of locked him in. And like you said, he's been carrying this team throughout the season. And he's likely, because of that, carried your fantasy team to the playoffs or close to it throughout the season. So, and he was a draft value too, because people were still scared about the injury, still scared about Daniel Jones, offensive line, new coach, even though it's Daboll. And coach of the year for me, Daboll has to be in consideration because this team, like, look at this team's wide receiver core. And I know I'm going on a tangent here, but if you look at this team's wide receiver core, Isaiah Hodgins, Darius Slayton, Wan'Dale Robinson, the ghost of Kenny Galladay. Like, how in the world is this team even in playoff contention?
Richie James?
Richie James. There was waiver wire pickup candidate in my mind. Really deep, though. But the answer is Brian Daboll and Saquon Barkley.
Yeah, Saquon has literally just carried this team on his back while he runs over defenders. And they're likely to make the playoffs, if they beat the Colts, which they should. They absolutely should, hammer the Colts this week. And I think that clinches. If I could be wrong there, but I think that might clinch them a playoff spot if they beat the Colts. And yeah, it's literally thanks to Saquon Barkley. It was a pretty devastating injury, and he had a couple injuries kind of pile up, which happens a little bit when guys tear their ACL. Other things they start compensating, other things go, things happen, and looks like he's finally healthy. And again, carrying this team into the playoffs, he's the heart and soul of this team, this offense. And, he's very, very deserving. Like you said, all these guys are very deserving. So I'm definitely okay with Saquon Barkley winning the award. It's just like, I don't particularly love when a guy comes back from an injury because, he was supposed to. It'd be more surprising if he didn't. You know what I mean? So same thing with CMC. And that's why I voted for Gino, because he came out of nowhere to be, a starter in the NFL. That's my rationale. That's my reasoning.
So my rationale for CMC was we haven't seen CMC at but we haven't seen CMC for more than 6 games total over the last
About
2
that,
years,
yeah.
3 years. So him coming back and being the close to the CMC of old was the reason for my vote.
Yeah, that's fair. I actually, honestly, and our fearless leader Rick thought that Saquon was the guy, hands down, and I guess he was right because he crushed the voting.
Yeah.
The people spoke. It was Barkley, but we both got to disagree with that one. So it's kind of funny how that one worked out. But
Yeah.
let's move on to the second last award we have for the night, the biggest bust of 2022. And this is on that's like, it's kind of always fun to talk about. Not fun. It's always kind of heartbreaking to talk about because everybody has a guy, right?
Yep.
Everybody has someone that they drafted too early, didn't work out, maybe got hurt, whatever it is. So some of these guys that are out there, Justin Herbert is a guy that you could certainly give this award to. He, you and I, even a few weeks ago, and we were wrong, but it was all there for him. Like, there's something wrong with that offense or Herbert, or I don't particularly know.
What week was that? Do you remember?
It was like week 13 or
week 13,
12 or something.
I'm looking at my home league and the dynasty league, and the points are a little different, but it's probably close enough. He had 23.45 in week 13 against the Raiders, 25.15 against Miami, and then he had 2 single-digit performances against the Titans and the Colts.
Yeah, and those are teams that you should be lighting up, especially the Titans. Especially the Titans. Yeah.
Well, so what happened? And like we talked about, I guess it was week 13, so 3-4 weeks ago. My biggest grievance this year has been quarterback play as a whole, and Justin Herbert was the poster child for that.
Yep. And Russ.
If you drafted Justin Herbert or Russ as a top 5, top 10 quarterback, Herbert's sitting at QB 11 right now. I have no idea what Russell Wilson is at. I don't want to look, but you drafted him and you're not getting the return on value. So I can definitely see the argument for Justin Herbert. Hopefully for my fantasy championship stakes in that league, he bounces back against the Rams.
Yeah, that was a weird one. Like everything was there for him to be, to have a Josh Allen like season. It was everything was there for him, but then the injuries started piling up on the offensive line. Keenan Allen got hurt. Mike Williams got hurt. There's all these little things, but at the end of the day, like those excuses aren't enough for me to excuse Justin Herbert's kind of performance.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. He had a tough year. And then another one, obviously Russell Wilson, who's just a pile of hot garbage, who's just an absolute mess. Has no clue which way, his team is attacking, it seems. Nathaniel Hackett gets fired because he's just as much of a joke, if not more than Russell Wilson, to be honest. He completely lost that entire team by allowing Russ to have these extra things that, he had in his contract. I think that, moving forward for the Denver Broncos, they're going to have to get a coach in there that tells Russ to eat dirt.
Yeah,
and that's putting it very nicely, Well,
no, I saw a tweet or two. It may have been the same one. I can't remember or not off the top of my head. But basically, the message behind the tweet was: one, Nathaniel Hackett was not ready to be a head coach. I think you and I said that early on. His decision making, his clock management, play calling, all of that, was not ready. He was propped up because he was Aaron Rodgers' quarterback coach or whatever the hell he was. I don't even remember. And that propelled him into a job that he was not ready for. I mean, hell, it's close, but same thing with Freddie Kitchens back in 2019 with the Browns. He was not ready to be a head coach.
Yeah.
And he got propped up because of that relationship with the quarterback. So maybe
who was that quarterback?
It was my boy, Baker Mayfield.
I know. I just wanted to hear you say it.
Who, by the way, is looking pretty damn good in Sean McVay's offense, but that's another topic for another day. But then the other part of the tweet was that whoever the next head coach is, and this is, I think, coming down from the Waltons, is it's going to have to be about we in that locker room and not three.
Mm-hmm.
And it's got to be like you can't have the media bias or the commercials or whatever. Like your focus can't be away from football during the year, and
Well,
that's
and
what it
he's got
seems
his
like.
own office. He's got his own office.
Yeah,
He's got his own, like, he's separating himself from the team.
yeah,
And that's never going to work. That
no,
is never going to work when you
that
got to
was
look
mentioned in
these
that tweet too.
when you got to look five guys in the eye that are like, protecting other grown dangerous men from ripping your head off, not literally, but kind of
Pretty
at the
close.
same time. Yeah. You're trying to get these guys to go out there and be willing to put their neck on the line for you. And you're over in your private office by yourself. You know what I mean? Like, that's just
Yeah,
not a good look. And I don't know why or where Russell Wilson gets this from and thinks he's above the team, because that's what it is. There's no other way that you can spin it. Like, you think
no,
you're above the team.
yeah.
You can't convince me of anything other than that. So yeah. Anyways, Russell Wilson. We could go all day, I guess, on that one. Last one was Kyle Pitts. He got hurt, so I don't like putting him on a list like that. When you get
Yeah,
hurt,
and we had talked kind of in our chat pre-show, and you had mentioned Kyler, and I feel like it's the same thing. Like you can't put Kyler or Pitts on there with the injury.
And to be honest, I looked a little more at his numbers. They were pretty reasonable, throughout the start of the year. They would have carried you in a fantasy format. Real
Yeah,
life football, bit of a different story, but in fantasy, which is what we're obviously talking about, he would have been just fine for you. And yeah, you hit it there again. Like, if a guy gets hurt, you can't really put him in here. But we'll finally announce it. Biggest bust of 2022, Jonathan Taylor. This is a guy. I was saying to cut bait with him, right when that injury happened, and there were just so many conflicting reports. You remember I was hitting on it every single time we talked about Jonathan Taylor. We didn't know if he was out for the season. We
yep,
didn't know if he was out for a week. We didn't
yep.
know if he was playing that week. We had no idea what was going on. And that to me was just a massive red flag. And I wasn't willing to take any more risk with Jonathan Taylor. So definitely a bust. First consensus, first overall, in pretty much any format except for Superflex.
And do you know
He
where
was
he's sitting right now?
RB 17.
No, it's worse.
Less.
It's worse.
Wow. I thought he had he's almost 1,000 yards even, but
Look, hold on. Yeah. So I just looked at 3 different leagues. My home league dynasty, he's RB 27. The other 2, he's RB 28.
wow. That's bad. When he's, again, the consensus number 1 overall selection. I think he was like, his ADP on Best Ball was like 1.3, I think.
Yeah.
So
I mean, if you look at it, I'm assuming based on the numbers, week 4 against Tennessee was when he got hurt initially. So missed the rest of that game, missed Denver, missed Jacksonville, came back against Tennessee, did okay, had Washington, missed the New England game, had 4 decent weeks, then their bye week in week 14, and then I'm guessing got hurt again against Minnesota.
recently, yeah.
Yeah, week 15,
Yeah.
and then last week didn't play.
Yeah, and he's done for the rest of the year.
Yeah.
So, again, we did say that you can't keep him out for injuries, but it wasn't just that. It was kind of the nature of the injuries, and maybe we can blame the Colts on this selection a little bit and just the handling of the injuries. Because
garbage too, though.
Sorry?
Their offensive line was garbage, and it's supposed to be one of the better offensive lines in the league.
Yeah.
It's been bad all year.
Yeah, but that's like not particularly on Jonathan Taylor. There wasn't really injuries there. The problem there is they never had a friggin' left tackle, and they drafted a former tight end who's not even, didn't even play football growing up. He's from friggin' Austria. They drafted him, former tight end from a friggin' mid-major, to be their left tackle. I don't want to.
Go off.
Bernard Ryman, who I didn't even like at all in the draft process, didn't like him at all whatsoever. He had so many flaws, and then they're like, "Oh yeah, we'll draft him in the 3rd round, and he'll be a starting left tackle." Meanwhile, Eric Fisher, Eric Fisher, whatever who they let just walk, who was their left tackle there. He just walked out the door. You could have just brought him back on the cheap. He didn't even play for pretty much the whole season. I think the Dolphins picked him up recently. You could have had him. Would have been better than what you had. Either way, yeah. Jonathan Taylor's a bust. He's a bust. And again, it's the Colts. I was hammering on it every time we talked about it. Like, just be transparent, a little bit transparent with his injury. And I could have forgiven this a little more, but I think I drafted, or I voted for Jonathan Taylor as well in this one, I believe.
I actually voted for Najee just to be different, but
Najee wasn't that bad, man.
I know.
He wasn't that bad, and he was a trade target towards the end of the season.
YNO Tony's comment real quick.
Yeah, so he was another guy that was on he was a candidate. He was one of 3 candidates, so he definitely was a big disappointment. At the same time, like, his draft stock did kind of fall, right? He was about a 3rd round pick, whereas in normal any other year he'd be a top 5 overall pick.
Well, because no one knew what was going to go on with his legal issues.
Yeah, and he did have a bit of an off year considering the year, last year. So there was a lot of enough red flags there but he was definitely a candidate for this award. He just came up short because Jonathan Taylor was, that bad, I guess. But we got one more. We got one more award. This is the main event award.
Fantasy MVP.
The 2022 Fantasy Football Most Valuable Player. Who were the 2 runners up?
The 2
Tyreek
runners up are
and Patrick Mahomes. Tyreek Hill and Patrick Mahomes were the two runners up. And this was probably the biggest landslide, actually.
It was, which is, I think, somewhat surprising.
I wasn't surprised because you can't, and I got hurt by injury, but I did make a bet with a friend of mine that Jamar Chase would outscore this player. So I owe him on that one, but Jamar Chase did get hurt. But either way, I don't know if he's going to be able to catch him this year. This guy just went off. Justin Jefferson, the new Vikings most receiving yards in Vikings single season history, past Randy Moss.
Yep.
Just an absolute friggin' stud. This guy is just an absolute stud.
He's carrying my 2 main teams, like that home league dynasty team. I got him. My redraft keeper league with Jay Felicio, got him there. He's carrying me to the championships.
There's a best ball league that Justin Jefferson is 100% ownership in the final. I think it's the backyard or something like that. I don't have any leagues in it, but coincidentally, in my best ball, my one remaining finals best ball league team, whatever, the Puppy 3, I have Justin Jefferson and Kirk Cousins. So I'd be very happy if he just goes absolutely nuclear against the Packers this week to carry me to a nice little payday.
Yeah,
but
I hope my grandfather's not watching because I would like that too. Because again, I need to win these 2 leagues that I'm in.
And he's a Packers fan.
Oh yeah,
there you go. What else can you say about him? Like, the dude is just an absolute stud, and he's going to be for the next, going off like Tony's comment here. Yeah, he's going to be, a consensus top probably 3 pick for the next minimum 3 years. At least he's arguably the number 1 dynasty asset right now. Arguably, but he's one of them. In a 1 QB, I think he probably is the number 1 asset.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't updated my dynasty rankings recently, but I think I have typically it's been between him and Jamar Chase.
He might have catch of the history of the NFL. Tony, that catch was insane. To be honest, I think David Tyree's catch is kind of getting kicked around right now, which is kind of rude considering the context of that catch. But I still think Justin Jefferson's catch was amazing. Don't get me wrong.
Odell's is
It wasn't even that. No, it wasn't even that hard. It was just mad style points.
dude, he was being interfered with. I feel like people forget that. Like,
I think Justin Jefferson was too.
oh yeah. I'm not. I'd have to go back and watch Justin Jefferson's. I'm not saying that Odell's was better. I'm just saying Odell should be up there for catch of the millennia, if we will.
Yeah, it's in the top. I'll give it top 5.
Yeah.
In the history, mostly because it just had so much style and it's so many style points. If we're judging it on 10-point whatever, the figure skating judges give it on style or whatever. He's maxing that out. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
So,
for sure.
yeah, but yeah, there you go. Fantasy football MVP. We got Justin Jefferson. I don't think there's anything more to say, and I hope he goes nuts this week. I could really use $200,000 American. That would be a good time.
Yeah,
That
that'd
goes
be
up.
that'd be
Goes
a
up
fun
an
time for
extra.
you.
Goes up an extra $50K for me living where I live, so that would be all right.
Attaboy.
So a couple questions we have in the chat. Let's take a peek here. Albert Moroccan, hopefully I said that right. Would you go Devontae Smith or Waddle? I'm going with Devontae Smith. Even if
Really
Minshew's playing, but I'm pretty sure Hurts is gonna play in that game.
Yeah.
They're against New Orleans Saints at home. But I would go Devontae Smith over Waddle. We talked about it earlier. This question stemmed from the Teddy Bridgewater Tua talk, Tyreek talk, that sort of a thing. What do you think, Shane?
Damn, that's really hard. That's really hard. I'm gonna go. Yeah, I'm gonna go Smith.
Another reason, like I've been saying this actually probably like for the last at least 2 weeks. I've said this. Marcus Lattimore's got to friggin' play at some point. Like he's practicing and he keeps not playing. So at some point, and this is do or die for the Saints, they have to win this game, period, if they want to continue on. And
Smith's
then
on a little
he's
tear too.
What's that?
Smith is on a little bit of a tear too.
He is. Yeah, he absolutely is.
He's hot. Yeah, I'm going Smith.
Yeah. So there you go. Smith over Waddle. We're both in agreement there. This is unfair, I think, a little bit. Go look at his career stats. He's really not that bad. He is limited. He's certainly limited, but this is another Carson Wentz thing for me. I think Derek Carr and Carson Wentz are both starting quarterbacks in the NFL. I think.
You and I have disagreed on Carson Wentz probably all year, but I agree with you on Carr. Carr is underrated, maybe strong, but he is a good quarterback, I think.
He's quality. He's quality. Yeah. He's like the epitome of median.
I do not think we've seen him win you games. It's rare, but we've seen him go and win you a game.
Yeah.
I don't feel like you ever truly lose a game just because of Derek Carr. There's a couple sprinkled throughout his career. Like what? I think he threw 3 interceptions last week.
Yeah.
If I remember correctly.
And now he's benched for Jared Stidham.
Yeah, that's all
Doesn't
politics
matter.
though, and really stupid. Like as soon as I saw the notification that they were benching him for Stidham, I just tweeted at space Josh McDaniels and a GIF of WTF. Jarrett Stidham's not a starting quarterback in the NFL. This is a horrible decision, especially because while it is a long shot, like they have to have 6 perfect scenarios happen, they still have a shot at making the playoffs.
The Raiders? No.
Yeah.
They're eliminated.
No, they still have a shot.
Are you sure?
Yeah, they covered it on Good Morning Football this week. Yuck. There's 6 scenarios that have to happen for them to even be considered.
Oh, you're right. Wow.
But it would create a 6-way tie for 7th place, and they have the tiebreaker over the New England Patriots.
So it's not going to happen.
Yeah,
is what you're saying.
It's not.
Regardless of anything.
But there's still a chance if they win out. They have to win out. They're not going to do that with Jarrett Stidham.
No. Well, the thing is, like we've talked about it time and time again. I say it all the time ad nauseum. I say this: there is not even 32 quarterbacks in the NFL. There's not enough quarterbacks that can start in the NFL week in, week out.
Nope.
So Derek Carr is one of them. And so is Carson
Yeah.
Wentz. I don't care what anyone says. It's just that's a fact. And we might see it this weekend. Carson Wentz against the Browns. If he goes off, which he absolutely could, there's no reason why Wentz can't have 3 touchdowns, 250 yards, that sort of thing. And I just think that he has all the talent, all the intangibles. 6'6", 230. He's the same everything as Justin Herbert. Not saying that he is Justin Herbert, but from what we've seen from Justin Herbert recently, it's not that insane to say. But the physical gifts are there for Carson Wentz, and I think that again, with there not even being enough quarterbacks to fill out the NFL right now, who would you rather have, Carson Wentz or Zach Wilson?
Carson Wentz in that.
There you go. Who would you rather have, Carson Wentz or Russell Wilson right now?
Right now?
Right now. Baker Mayfield or Carson Wentz?
You're asking.
I know what you're going to say, but the correct answer is Carson Wentz. But either way, like there's just not enough. Even Sam Darnold, Carson Wentz. Like
I would probably go Wentz and. Yeah, I would probably go Wentz there.
I'm just saying, like, and Carr is not playing well, but he's still a quarterback in the NFL, in my opinion.
I mean, Carr's sitting at QB 14 right now, and I know that like we're talking fantasy, but that still translates. I mean, 3,500 yards, 24 pass touchdowns, 14 interceptions. Like
I said, he's like the epitome of median,
right in the middle,
mediocrity. Just right there.
He's above Lamar Jackson in fantasy in this league I'm looking at, and Aaron Rodgers this year.
I saw today that because Dan Orlovsky was coming to his defense, and I really respect Dan Orlovsky's opinion.
Yeah, you and I talked about that last week, I think.
Yeah, and he likes him, and he pointed out that since Derek Carr has come into the league, he has the 32nd ranked defense.
That does not surprise me one bit.
So his defense has never done him any favors. They've never been higher than 20th in his entire career.
To that point, other than Max Crosby, can you name me 3 defensive starters for the Raiders?
Yeah, no problem. But I can do that a lot. Amik Robinson.
Never heard of him.
Amik Robertson. Denzel Perriman, but he got hurt for pretty much the rest of the year. Obviously Chandler Jones.
Okay, I forgot about that one.
Bilal Nichols, I believe, is still there. Is he still there? He's a really good player if he is. Jonathan Abrams got cut. Trevin Morig, he should be pretty all right, hopefully.
But so other than Chandler Jones, and I'll throw some credit at Denzel Perryman. None of those guys to me are household names, even guys that you would consider top 15 at their position.
Divine Diablo was pretty decent this year, but I agree, their defense sucks. Is what you're getting at.
That was the point I was getting at. Is like, they don't have anyone outside of Crosby and Jones that is really going to scare you on the defensive side, and I feel like it's been that way for years. Yeah, no, you're absolutely, that's absolutely facts. They had Ngakoue, they had Khalil Mack, but they mismanaged both of those. Yeah. So. Carl Nassib was on that team for a little bit. Yep. They're a gong show on the defensive side of the football, which just does him no favors. Yeah. Daniel Keenan, who's been around last few weeks, good to see you. Yeah, he's a Raiders fan. Don't know what to think. I wouldn't know what to think either, man. That's a bit of a mess. Josh McDaniels, the Dana White story. This is it's pretty interesting. It's pretty interesting time to be a Raiders fan, especially with their goofball owner that you can't take serious for even half a second of any day. Bowl cut. So yeah, I mean it would be tough to be a Raiders fan. Haircut in football, easily. in the history of hair. Yeah, you might as well just cut it. What else do we got here? There was a question for Tony. Last question here: Kamara or David Montgomery PPR? I could play them both, flex or go with Drake London, Rashad White.
Isaiah Pacheco and the flex. Rachaad White, you're not playing. I've been trying to tell anyone that will listen that Rachaad White is not as good as you think he is. Plus, playoff Lenny has
Lenny's
he's been
coming.
activated, so Rachaad White's not on the radar for me. Drake London's been good the past few weeks, though. He's gotten a ton of targets with our guy Desmond Ritter. Well, my guy Desmond Ritter.
He's our guy. I love that.
He's our guy too. Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yeah. So he's been looking okay. Kamara against Philly. Hey, Montgomery against Detroit. I'm going with David Montgomery for sure. You were right the other week about Zonovan Knight.
I told you.
But then look what happened last week.
But then Deontay Foreman ripped them apart and broke that trend. And Chuba.
And Darnold. Everybody ran all over that team.
Dude, I don't. Detroit must have used all of their Infinity Stones or Monstar powers or whatever, and just said, "All right,
correct on the Zonovan Knight call." I guess. Yeah, yeah. They heard you.
I told people, I was like, "You guys are going all in on Zonovan Knight, and the Detroit Lions are going to stuff him. Watch."
I don't know about all in, but yeah, I thought he would. I thought he would do better than he did. That's for sure. And here we are. But either way, I'm going on this in this question. David Montgomery is my for sure.
Yeah.
And then
we just
gotta go with Kamara, man.
Who do the Saints have? Eagles.
Philly, yeah, in Philly. But like,
so could you go Monty Pacheco?
You could go Drake London against Arizona at home.
In London? Yeah. I like that.
Over Kamara. It just stinks to sit Kamara, but it is championship weekend.
And that's when Kamara likes to go off for some unforeseen reason. Like
when no one expects it, when it doesn't matter anymore. Yeah, watch next week. He'll have like
56
touchdowns or something.
Like he did back in Christmas 2 years ago.
So I guess you could go. Who's Pacheco? Who's Pacheco? Denver. Denver's completely given up, so that's not a terrible play.
And they're actually not good against the run.
They never all season. That's been their weakness, considering.
Yeah. I think they're 20th or 24th, one of the two. I can't remember off the top of my head, but
so Montgomery for sure. And we could both be talked into Drake London or Isaiah Pacheco.
Yeah.
And Kamara will just rip your heart out either way. You start him, he'll get you 4 points. You don't start him, he's on your bench, he'll get you 35.
Pretty much.
That's how it'll go. It's just how it'll go with Alvin Kamara. But yeah, that's kind of it, I think. That's kind of all we got. Yeah. No more questions in the chat. This might be, I think this is our, for sure, yours and I last show this season.
Yeah.
So it's been great, man. It's been good. Yeah. We certainly didn't know each other when the season started, but here we are.
Yeah, man. So, I liked it. We feel like we really hit our stride, and this was fun every week. So I appreciate you.
Yeah, I appreciate you. I appreciate everyone watching in, week out, all the subscribes that we've gotten, the likes, everything, all the support's been awesome. We'll be back next year, I'm sure. So I can't wait for next year. We'll be getting going on some. It's not like we won't see each other. That's for sure. We're going to be doing all kinds of content coming up on the channel. So stick with it. Hit that subscribe button if you're watching. Hit that like button, helps the channel as well. But yeah, we're going to be starting. Go ahead. You got a question? Or
no, I was saying
hit the Discord.
Yeah, go to the
Discord above Shane's head there. You can always chat with us there. Just at either one of us if you want to get a hold of us, because it's so many channels, so many things going on in there. So it's hard to keep up on every single one. Just throw it at Cody Woodman, at Shane Barrett, and you'll get a hold of us there.
That's the first time you've almost called me Sean all year.
Yeah, I know. I don't know why either. Like,
I'm proud of you.
Yeah. But no, we're gonna have all kinds of rookie content coming out in the next little bit here for draft prep and everything like that. That's kind of actually what I love, making off-season content way more than in-season content, if I'm being honest. It's just funner, more interesting. You get to call your shot a little bit more and keep some receipts. Speaking of which, I'm going to probably try and pull a receipt on that Cam Akers take I had a few weeks back, because that one was a good one for me. But so we're going to have that best ball content with myself will be coming out couple months once they open up the big board and stuff like that. Underdog Fantasy, I will be doing at least weekly Best Ball live stream with drafts. Come and draft with me. Shane might join
I'll probably hop
in.
in
We'll
on a couple of
probably, yeah,
those.
Rick might come in. Who knows who else might come in and join the stream and say what's up. But if you want to draft with me, stick with the show. It'll be on Wednesday nights, just like this one. That's all I got. Shane, what do you got, man?
Nothing. It was a pleasure doing this season with you. Make sure you guys follow Cody, myself, the team, and at Roto Heat Fantasy on Twitter. And again, hop in that Discord. Feel free to reach out to us there on Twitter, etc. And like Cody said, we will be having a lot of content coming out over the next few months for off-season stuff. So appreciate the support. Couldn't do it without you guys. Thanks.
Absolutely. Take care.